you dream of your motorcycle, if your day isn't complete without some time in the saddle, if all you need is the open road and a full tank of gas, well, you've come to the right place, because this is Throttled, and it's starting now. Here's your host, Kevin McKinney.
Hello and welcome back to Throttled, everybody. It is the OG group. Got just Larry and myself today. And I got a decent show, I think, for you. Larry, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. OG stands for original.
Original, yeah.
That's us.
That's what I'm going to go with here. So, but any motorcycle riding or excitement this week?
Yeah, I actually have not. And part of the reason for that, I am going to blame on my grandson.
Here we go. Excuses start. Here they come.
This is it, because the days that I had designated as riding days turned out to be babysitting days instead. And that's something that I simply cannot at this point refuse. And so, no, I have not had a chance to get out and ride this week, even though the weather was great. And all conditions pointed to good riding conditions, and I just couldn't quite get out. But next week is a whole new week. How about you, Kevin?
Well, I did get out for, I guess it was about 30 miles, and it was a really weird thing. So what day was it? I think it was Friday. It was Friday. So I had a meeting planned Friday morning, and that got canceled and rescheduled. So I ended up thinking, okay, hey, I could go out for a few hours, and the next meeting I had to be on camera. I just had to listen, and so I was like, I could just if I don't make it back in time, I can start that before I get back, and everything will be good. So I jump on the bike, tear off down the road. And then for some reason, I started thinking about, I was like, I need to get lunch while I'm out. And I was like, man, it'd be good if I had those ribs. And then I started thinking about the ribs that I had bought that are sitting in my fridge. And I was like, you know what? They go bad on like the 8th or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I really don't want to freeze them. I want to go ahead and use them. And I was like, and I started thinking, I'll do it tomorrow. I was like, well, no, I can't do it tomorrow. I got my daughter's soccer game, and we're going to be gone for too long. And, I kind of, every 2 hours, I do something to them. It's like, I can't do that. And then I was like, well, then I'll do them on Sunday. I was like, she's got a soccer game again. And then, so I'm like, okay, all right, I could go home. I got plenty of time. I could go ahead and get them on, and we can have them for dinner tonight. Sounds like a plan, right? And so that was at about the 16-mile mark of me moving on down, because next week I'm tied up during the day, so I can't get them started until 1 o'clock. And to me, ribs take about 6 hours the way I do them. And so I turned around, went back the same way, got home, started looking at everything I needed. Do I have this? Do I have that? Picked up the bag of charcoal, and there's like 20 bricks in there. I'm like, well, that's not enough. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll talk to my family about when we can do this tonight and everything. Ended up that not 3 hours later, I was outside, and I was like, well, if we're going to cook these at some point, let me, I may need to clean out the smoker a little bit. Let me start taking it apart. And I took off the main body. I've got a, all my coals are in the bottom, and I've got that's a bullet type of smoker. Take off the top, and it's like half the coals are still in it from the last time I used it. Maybe actually more than half, like 3/4 of them, because it was a lot shorter of a cook, because I was doing a turkey, and it didn't take but like 3 hours, and I thought it was going to take me a lot longer. So I kind of filled it up, and then, and got it going through. So
you had the coals.
I had the coals. So, these were partially used, right? They had all at one point lit, but I've started using this little device that blows air and closes up all your vents. So when you shut it down, it'll go out without just burning all the way out, And so,
Welcome to the barbecue show.
huh?
Welcome to the barbecue.
The barbecue show. Yeah. I'm almost done. Anyway, so instead of riding today, which today's been kind of a crappy day weather-wise, it's been overcast and threatening rain all day. Comfortable. I did that. So, and yesterday I was at either golf practice with my kids or soccer matches and, had ribs today. Also did some wings for the first time in case everybody cares. And the ribs, I tried a different rub, didn't like it as much as my old one. And the wings were okay, but I want to try a different rub on those as well. This had way too much oregano. It was really strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, as far as riding though, I got that 30-mile ride in, and I was planning on getting another one in, but I just messed around. I mean, that was supposed to be, about 120-mile ride, and I cut it way short. So anywho, so that's sorry. That's kind of a lackluster riding report for sure. Tom was going to talk about some tires, but he ended up going on a little motorcycle trip, so I'm sure he'll have plenty to share later. So, you want to go ahead and dive into some news and some numbers that have been reported?
Sure.
All right. So Harley Davidson, right? We have been using them, especially in the U.S., for a benchmark about how the motorcycle market is doing. Now, we know that over the last year, dual sports, ADV bikes, things like that have been selling pretty good. Street bikes, cruisers, not as much. But Harley Davidson reported a 9% increase in motorcycle sales volume and a 12% increase in sales revenue over the first quarter of this year. They are in their new hardwire business plan, so that's maybe signs that that's working. Who knows? I'm not going to get into the specifics, but let's see. The increase was fueled by mostly North America, which saw a 30% jump in units. It was enough to offset the 36% decline in European sales. Now, that was pretty much impacted because they stopped selling the Sportster in the streets in those markets, and those were big time sales generators for them in those markets. So that's great, right? It rose up, and everybody seems to be happy. Zeitz is happy, the CEO, and they're confident that this 5-year strategy is going to move forward. The EU stuff is even more complicated, right? Because they are about to get hit with major tariffs. And I think, do you have all those numbers, Larry?
Well, the Euro consortium is threatening to raise tariffs from the 6% to 56%. So if that's the case, then that would definitely put Harley-Davidson bikes that are being sold in Europe at a disadvantage in terms of pricing.
Yeah, that's not good. That's definitely not good. So, when you have to pay 56% tariffs, that's a big number to try to get past. And they're looking at, what can be done and everything. Now, most likely this is going to happen. There's some rumors, mostly scuttlebutt, like, hey, what can Harley do? And from me reading this article, about the only thing Harley can do is actually build a plant in the EU and make the motorcycles they sell in the EU there. That's about the only way they're going to be able to get around this tariff. Or the Biden administration steps in and negotiates something, we'll see.
Yeah, I think this came about as a result of kind of some of the tariff wars or conflicts that had been generated over the last few years, and maybe possibly it can be renegotiated, and some kind of compromises could be made that would reduce tariffs on both sides, and then remove this onerous tariff from Harley Davidson.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, that's not great, right? But the sales numbers so far are good and encouraging. So aside from that little tariff thing, but how do they stack up, right? So Harley saw, what was it, 9% growth? Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Scroll back. Yeah. All right. So 9% growth in sales, 12% in revenue. Now, do we have what the amount of revenue was generated? 1.2 billion in revenue. Okay.
So keep in mind that the 9% is worldwide. So in North America, it was a 30% growth.
Okay. Thank you. But the motorcycle sales generated 1.02 billion in revenue. All right. So let's keep that number in mind just for a second. And we're just sticking. I want to try to stick just to motorcycle sales because I've got a lot of other numbers about merchandising and everything like that generated more than the bikes did, which is kind of sad, but okay. So let's look at our other American cruiser touring bike bagger manufacturer. That would be Indian Motorcycles, aka Polaris. They were up 31% over Q1 of 2020. All right. Now, I want to say this for both. Basically, all the numbers you get that go from this point out up over 2020. Everybody knows 2020 sales numbers were a disaster, right? Because most people were stuck at home. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't know what was going on. Nobody was buying motorcycles. I mean, yeah, some people were, but not what you would think. So if your numbers will go down in 2021 compared to 2020, especially Q2, 3, wow. Okay, because at this point in time last year, nobody was doing anything. Like we were all locked up at home, not able to get out, and hoping that hey, maybe June, July, summer's coming. We can get back out. But we were in major most of Q1, into Q1, most of Q2. We were locked down, right? So your numbers should be better. So we Q2 we may not even mention numbers because yeah, they went up. You sold a motorcycle. So, but what we wanted to try to do is compare how Harley's doing versus Indian. And there was a number in here, and I can't find it. All right, so. Q1 2021 motorcycle sales for Polaris totaled 165.6 million. So that is a little over 10% of what Harley did. Am I reading that right, Larry?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So when a lot of people are like, oh, and I've heard people say it, Indian's taking a big chunk out of Harley. Not as much as you think, right? Because their bikes are pretty closely priced in a lot of situations. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to knock Polaris or Indian, because I've liked a lot of what they've been doing. They've got some decent bikes out there, and they're getting a lot more popular, and I'm seeing more of them on the roads. I saw a Chief just the other day. So, I mean, keep that in mind. They're doing the right things, but they haven't, they weren't able to capitalize on all this turmoil that was going on at Harley like a lot of people thought they were. Yes, their numbers have increased and been better than Harley, but they've got a long way to go to catch up, right? I mean, you look at a 100-year-old company that's got as much nostalgia, and I can't say that word tonight, as Harley Davidson does. Indian, while the name is old, that instance of the company is still relatively new if you look at the history of both brands. Will things change in the future? Yeah, I figure Harley's going to lose more market share to Indian, But I also see Harley recognizing that and, Livewire. Pan America. We'll see. But yeah, so that's how those two. So gross profit for Indian, $8 million for Q21. That's not a lot of profit. Of course, I mean, I don't remember what Harley's profit was. I don't know if we actually read it out loud on the show. But, I think it's good. Both companies are growing. Both companies have added to the revenue, right? They went up because we were hearing, before this, everything's going down. So this is an uptrend. And it's a good year to start having an uptrend. People are anxious to get out and ride. And, there's new exciting things coming. Indian did a great job with the Chief. They did a great job with the Challenger. They've got all their dark horse stuff going around. I mean, you can't complain with what they're doing. I'm wondering when we see an Indian ADV bike. I'm wondering if that's in the works. I'm wondering if we see an Indian electric bike.
Well, they have the FTR, right?
They do have the FTR, but I don't see that as an adventure. I mean, you don't think of that as an adventure bike.
Well, it can be used as a light duty, dirt bike, and of course an on-road bike. So it may be a step in that direction for India. And by the way, the Harley Davidson net profit was $259 million.
All right, so slight improvement over.
It was up $70 million actually.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good improvement actually.
Well, I was being a little facetious, but whatever. All right. Everybody just got mad at me because I whispered and then I got really loud. And they're like, "Your volume." Yes, I realize my volume is off. My mixer is dying. I'm doing everything I can to boost the volume up. I actually talk very loud, and I apologize. I'm working on it. I'm trying to do what I can. The funny thing is one device shows me my volume level sign, the other one doesn't. I'm trying to figure it out. So, and if I turn down Larry and them, it gets all crazy. So I'm doing my best, guys. I promise. All right. Let's see here. What are we talking about now? All right. Let's talk about Honda. Honda. All right. So they're developing a steering assist system for bikes. Okay. And what this is an electric actuator that's connected to the bike's onboard computer. Now, some bikes already have some form of this, and what it does is it kind of helps with the try to prevent a tank slapper situation where you just have an incredible front end wobble, and it kind of takes control of the bike and prevents that from happening, stabilizes the bike, and gets things going forward. Well, I mean, I guess going straighter because you're already going forward to have the problem. But this is kind of considered out of the 6 total possibilities of, vehicle autonomy, level 3, right? Where it's able to do some things to interact with the situation and take control in momentary instances, and then relinquish control back to the rider. And so all the Terminator jokes about all the end days and Judgment Day and all that stuff. Yeah, go ahead. I saw the meme to totally sidebar the conversation. That's one-sided at this point. I saw the meme of the lady that fell asleep in the Roomba ate like all of her hair, and so it's got like this picture, and it looks like the Roomba is almost like eating her whole head at this point. And then at the bottom it has a picture of the Terminator, like the metal skeleton, and it has begun. I thought that was funny. Sorry, kind of geeky moment there, but yeah. So, what do you think about this level of bike computer autonomy?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I mean, of course, there are the purists, the side of the coin, and I have sympathy for that position, which is that motorcycle riding is this kind of pure experience of the rider and the bike and the road and the environment, and the rider should have complete control over everything. And this is an important part of the motorcycling experience. And I do understand and have empathy for that position. On the other hand, the future, I think, of transportation and highway travel, road travel, is going to be towards increasing automation. Of course, we're seeing that in cars and electric vehicles, and if motorcycles don't incorporate this in some way, to some degree, I think they may be left out of the total equation, which I do not want to see. So this steering assist mechanism, is maybe part of that effort to automate the riding of motorcycles enough to enable them to participate in the future of vehicle travel. And so right now, this system is only intended to, as you said, Kevin, minimize the dangers from tank slap and wobbles at high speeds or crosswinds or bikes that are more heavily loaded. But it could also be employed in terms of helping to control steering and lane change, which I have in my car right now. And so this could develop into one part of a mechanism for more semi-autonomous riding on a motorcycle. And as I say, I think, like it or not, that is going to be the future of vehicular travel. And if motorcycles don't include this, they could be left out of the equation, especially in the United States. So, personally, I'm not totally crazy about the idea. I like the fact that it might minimize dangerous situations now, and I'm all for that, just like I'm all for ABS and that kind of thing. But the idea of totally automated motorcycle travel, well, that appeals to me somewhat less. But as I say, it may be necessary if we want to be able to stay on the highways. So those are my thoughts about it.
Yeah, I see this as being something kind of like ABS, right? It's a great to have. You hope it never has to engage.
Yeah.
And so, because they do call it in the article that, and this was all discovered through patent filings through Honda. They were mocking it up on a Goldwing. But, and this isn't the only company that's doing something like this. It just no patent, and, so it became a topic. This is one of those things that we look at and we say, hey, we can, if we detect you having a, tank slapper, we can reduce that, get the bike going back straight, give you back control faster, because a lot of people don't know how to recover from that situation, right? And so when you get a wobble or something like that, if it's able to stabilize it at a degree where, just like you can adjust how effective some of the ABS systems are about, when they kick in and during what conditions, you've got the road setting and all that other stuff, and they'll have different levels of, interaction or I'm not going to say interference, just not the right word, but implementation, I guess. I see it could be helpful like that. If you're riding a normal day, nothing should happen, shouldn't be an issue. So hopefully this will be one of those things that, yeah, it's got ABS, but I've never had to use it. I've never seen it come on. Maybe this is one of those things that just is there. It's another thing to break, pretty much. But, all right. It's adjustable steering dampers.
Yeah, I have, by the way, I've had my ABS kick in on a number of occasions, and I've been happy to have it do so, and it worked just great. So,
only once has my ABS kicked in, and then I went back to see if I could have braked better without it kicking in, and I was successful later on. I tried kind of like about a year later and went back, and I was like, all right, so here's where, because I knew how fast I was going. I knew where I hit the brakes and where I stopped at, because the guy pulled out in front of me and it was pretty obvious, and he stopped in the middle of the road. And so I did another test on that same road doing it, and that is true. If you do threshold braking, you can stop faster than the ABS, but not by much. Not by much. And this is after I have been doing a ton of practice on, this is on the Tenere, a ton of practice on the Tenere doing threshold braking, that I was able to do that. I would say that on the BMW right now, the BMW could, even with ABS and the distance covered on ABS, the extra braking distance it takes, I think it would most likely still bring me to a stop faster than I could do on the pavement. In dirt, I can definitely stop faster than ABS. I've done that plenty of times. But
yeah, well, that makes sense. I think that, but look at you. You're an experienced rider and an instructor and all that kind of stuff.
Well, trust me, the instructor stuff doesn't mean as much as a lot of people think it does. What I think has helped me a lot lately, not to the level that you and Brian have with the what is it? Not the jiu-jitsu. What is it? The
Moto Jiu-Jitsu.
Moto Jiu-Jitsu stuff. Yeah. I haven't gone to that extent yet, but when I get out on an MSF range, I play around on my bike almost every time that I take it there, and I run through. I think I said this here recently, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I run. In just a few minutes, you can run through most of the exercises that matter, and do a quick break and a swerve. I mean, you can run through the exam and most of the exercises in like 10 minutes if you know where all the cones go and what's going on, because you take the first day almost out, right? There's very few exercises that you're not going to do in the later exercises, so you could just run through those last couple of exercises, a lap here, a lap there, and you've done everything on the exam and everything else that is not on the exam or not covered in those exercises in 5-10 minutes, just once or twice playing around. And I do that for 20-30 minutes at a time, just messing around on my bike on the course. So it's just a lot of fun. My clutch is probably going to go out a lot faster, and my rear brakes can get worn because I'm trying to get better at turning, and I'm still not where I want to be on the BMW. I could some things I could do better on the Tenere, just because I guess I rode it for so long. I was more comfortable with it, and I'm still learning some things about the BMW. Anyway, all right. Let's see here. Where are we at on time? Oh, we're doing good. Let's see. Let's pick another article here. So Kawasaki is working on a next-gen quicksilver shifter. So another patent find, right? This is how we discover things nowadays. And they're trying to working to make them more usable for road riders. I mean, I thought quick shifting was kind of done for road riders. I mean, what are they bringing out here that's supposed to be so special about this, Larry? Do you know?
Well, I think that the part of the design is so that the quick shifter is not only going to be able to be used on upshifting, but that it's also going to be able to be easily used downshifting. And apparently there are a number of the quick shifter designs that are being employed currently don't necessarily make it that much, don't work that well downshifting. So
yeah, you still have to roll off the throttle, right. Which on the road, I don't see a benefit of downshifting with a quick shifter. Right. I just don't. The upshift, I absolutely get, right? But the downshift, when you have to roll off the throttle to do that, I mean, it'll work without you rolling off the throttle. It's just very jarring because it's, down and up and, so
Right.
I get the downshifting portion of this.
Yeah, so imagine if you could downshift easily and you could employ it without having to worry. In fact, some of the designs that they had didn't even include a clutch lever, so it was practically like an automatic in terms of not having to use a clutch. So imagine if you had both upshifting and downshifting available to you easily and without any thought or effort. You could do it. That certainly would seem to make riding a motorcycle easier and more intuitive.
All right, they've got a swim lane chart here. Where they've got, so you've got the shift operating sensors reporting to the shift controller. It also takes the gear position, so it knows what, it knows where your shift, it knows what gear you're in. We'll say that. It knows your engine speed, and it's got an engine speed calculator that's running on the control unit. It's reporting to the shift controller. And this is probably happening multiple times a millisecond, right? Throttle opening degree. So it knows how, so it knows your engine speed. It knows how much your throttle is open. It knows your vehicle speed, your coolant temperature, and the atmospheric pressure, right? So it's figured all these things out. It's sending that to the shift controller. The shift controller is making some decisions about what to do here. And that gets sent over to the engine controller and the clutch controller, right? And the clutch controller controls the actuator on the clutch. So it's kind of stepping in and determining, you're downshifting, giving my current speed, engine, throttle usage. This is what I need to do for a smoother shift and rolling back power. I'd be interested to see how that actually works if you're full throttle. If you're full throttle and you're downshifting, to me, this has applications off-road a ton. I don't know about on-road as much.
Well, part of the development of this appears to be linked to Kawasaki's interest in developing a hybrid motorcycle. And so,
when you say hybrid, do you mean as far as the clutch goes, or a gas electric?
No, this is hybrid would be a gas electric vehicle that could operate on either, and for short distances and lower speeds could be purely electric, and then for longer distances the gas motor would kick in, and for high performance you could actually, according to some of the patent applications that Kawasaki has filed, for more performance you could employ a mode that uses both the electric and the gas power, and so the idea seems to be developing this quick shifter as a part of a hybrid motorcycle that would be of interest to both people who commute and also people who are looking for performance.
Yeah. And so they've got another flow chart. Thank you for that, Larry. They've got another flow chart here that simplifies everything. Are they shifting? Yes. What is the rotational speed threshold? Then make a decision about, do I do a quick shift or a normal shift? And then, do everything that has to happen there within that unit. So it's interesting, very interesting how this lays out. Finally, all those years of being a developer and, software architect are paying off. I can read it.
Yeah.
I know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that the things that we're talking about really point to the possible future for motorcycling, and how the manufacturers do appear to be recognizing that if they wanted to stay in the game, they're going to have to include some of these automated features and electric features in order to remain viable.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that at all. I did want to follow up. I'm changing topics completely, Larry. So if you had something else to say, please interrupt. I did want to follow up and say that I know last week or the last show we did, we covered the Pan America review that came out that was in a foreign language. Well, since then, Rosella has written it, ADV Riders, a lot of different people in not manufacturers, but motorcycle publications have written it, and they're all sharing wonderful things. They say the engine is awesome. They would like a little bit more clearance in some situations on the suspension. They beat it up pretty bad on some things compared to their corresponding ADV bike that they're used to riding, but they say that this is a contender. If you're not manufacturing or a manufacturer specific kind of owner, like if every time you go look at bikes, you look at all the models out there and you choose the best bike for you by everybody. If you're one of those kind of consumers, they say that you really need to consider the Harley Davidson. The ride height adjustment features and the suspension, the way all that works, they're saying that's going to be a game changer. That's going to be something we're going to start seeing in more bikes in the future, most likely, because it is a very awesome feature. And I'm trying to remember who was I watched a YouTube video, and they had one of the female engineers from Harley on it. And, it showed her here. I'm, using the tallest seat that we have in the tallest configuration, and I'm on my tippy toes. And now this is me using, and the only thing I'm switching out is I'm turning on the adaptive seat height thing to where when the bike's parked, and I put a low seat on it, and she's flat footing it with knee bend.
Yeah.
And
I think that's such a smart thing for Harley to do, because with that and with the low seat option, you can get the seat height down to 29 point something inches, which makes this bike accessible to almost any rider. Yeah, and I think that's really a very smart move from Harley.
I completely agree with you there, and I think you're going to see this. Different names, obviously, different slight implementations, obviously, but I think you'll start seeing this across the board. They did get knocked a little bit for their battery placement. It's in a very, especially with the stock bash kind of bash plate at the bottom, skid plate. Everybody's like, if you take this off road, you have to upgrade this piece of metal because your battery, rectifier, all this stuff is barely covered and with a stock one, and what it is covered with is not something you want to leave yourself in a position to be stranded against. And like any of these bikes that have a radiator right there behind the front wheel, obviously getting rocks thrown into the radiator, bending fins, that's one thing, but potentially having a leak. So just, keep that. But they said the engine is great. Could use more torque, but, a lot of people don't know how to properly use the torque that they have on their bikes anyway. But those that do, it's like, it could use a little bit more low-end torque in some situations, but, it does make up for it in horsepower in others. It really comes alive in, the 4,000, 5,000, specifically 5, 6, 7,000 RPM range. And then I think it redlines at 9. I'm not positive about that.
Yeah. One of the reviewers said quite enthusiastically that this was the best motorcycle that Harley has ever produced. Mm-hmm. And
I think so.
I think that's an interesting viewpoint. As you point out, there were some things that it was dinged on. It was, in addition to what you mentioned, some of the reviewers dinged it on the fact that it did not have a quick shifter.
Yeah.
Apparently that's something that the competition does have.
Yeah.
And the suspension they felt was a little soft, especially on very, challenging trails. But you can set the suspension to the firm setting, and they said that really compensated for a lot of it.
One of them that I read, it was just I can't remember what website I was on, but it was just everyday Joe riding it, and he got to take it off road. He said that on the, you've got several different road suspension modes, but on off road you've got soft and firm, and that's it. And they're like, there really needs to be something in the middle of this, because it's dramatic. Like soft is soft and firm is really firm. It's like there needs to be a happy medium on this. Yeah. So, go ahead. I know I interrupted you there. Sorry about that.
No. I just think that overall and then the other thing that was dinged on, I think, was some heat coming up from the catalytic converter. And particularly at slow speeds and stuff like that, and some things like that. But overall, as their initial effort into this market and with this kind of motorcycle, it's a very strong entry at a very competitive price point, and with some very innovative features. And the reviews really have been very positive in terms of this being should be a strong consideration for anybody who's getting into the ADV market.
What would a Harley Davidson be if your inner thighs didn't catch on fire while riding down the road? All right? I mean, what we can't just totally abandon all of it. No, and we just honestly, I am super happy to hear all these wonderful things about the Harley Davidson Pan America. I really wish 6 months ago I would have been smart enough to hold off and consider it, just to be able to compare apples to apples. Knowing the pandemic, I guess not 6 months ago. A long time ago, whenever I bought the bike, 7 months ago. Yeah. I wish I'd thought about that a little bit more. But I didn't, because it seems like Harley's, I, like a lot of others, said, I think they'll do a decent job, but I'll wait for round 2, because they made on their little thing that they first showed us, there was so many things that were just like, oh my gosh, good first attempt, but I'm going to pass. But they seem to have improved all those things that we were just like, glaringly obviously wrong, and they were more artistic designs than anything else. So that I'm awesome. That's awesome, and I'm really, really happy for Harley. And I hope I get a chance to throw a leg over on one. Who knows? Maybe Harley will get the ADV course going, and I can finally get trained to teach one of those things. Because
that would be cool.
Because MSF is dragging their freaking feet on it. Sorry, just a little bitter about that. Just it's been years, and they still have not got the course together. And more people buying these bikes. More and more people wanting to take them off-road, but they're scared to because they can't get training, and they don't want to pay $2,500 to go to BMW. Put together a decent course, make it a 2-day course, and take it beyond just, I can go up and down a little hill. So
I think it's a great idea.
If I had a billionaire backer, I'd do it. But the problem is I need land, and that's the biggest issue. Is you have to have a place to do it that is controlled, and you can form to what you want. I want a base pad, but I also want some trails, and I want what BMW's got. They've got a great area to do it in. It just costs a lot of money to go, and they do a great job, but not everybody can afford that. And there's some places, and some people travel around, and some groups get together and they do the classes, but they're not advertised. They're hard to find. Half the places, if you go and look for ADV training, half of them don't even answer the phone or return calls or emails because I think they're closed.
Yeah, but it's interesting because Harley is right now having a test ride program across the country for the Pan America, and the test rides include a section of dirt riding, and I know out here in some of the courses they're using, motocross trails and stuff like that are available, and I don't see why they couldn't arrange to have those trails available to them for an ADV course, and get people on their ADV bikes.
Yeah, you need something. You need something that's pretty private, pretty closed. liability wise. You can't have anything that's on public trails, especially if you're doing fire road type things, because one idiot in a truck blasting through there, he's done destroyed you, all your riders, and any chance of you ever getting anybody else to sign up for that.
Right, but I know out here the motocross tracks that they're using are things that could be potentially, rented out for a period of time, and they
I mean, you're right. On motocross tracks, you could, but I was thinking more, trail riding, fire road riding. Hey, real world. This is the crap you're going to see. Here's a corner that's got little pea gravels in it. Here's what you do. Anyway, let's see here. I'm going to look at something real quick. Because we've got totally... none of this is scripted here. Okay, so... there are plenty of demo opportunities going on. Let's see, we're in May now, right? So you've got Nevada, California, Oregon, New Hampshire, Utah, Idaho, South Dakota, Missouri, Pennsylvania, Maine. They're allergic to the South. There's nothing. Virginia. If you count Virginia as being in the South, which I don't because it snows too much, there's nothing in the South. So anywhere else in the country, you're good. I guess we don't have trails and crap like that in the Southeast. There's just nothing. Like Virginia, that's it. Just one. The next closest, I guess, would be Missouri.
Is Missouri close to Virginia?
To me, I'll say the next closest to me would be Missouri. That's sad. That's sad. That is so sad that, and we've got to, I mean, I would have really thought they would have gone in and taken over and made a huge event out of it. And, like Teleco Plains, someplace like that we know has like bomber trails that people just drive from all over the country to go on. And maybe March Madness next year. Maybe maybe they'll show up there and have like, hey, demo rides. Let's go. That would be so awesome. Sorry.
They are having them around here, and I am scheduled for a ride in a few weeks in Sacramento.
Yeah, on May 28th through the 30th. Loser. Anyway, well, what do you have in the paddock, my friend?
Well, there is news in the paddock this week, and I'm happy to report it. The Flat Track Racing had their race at the Atlanta, at the Super TT in Atlanta. And unfortunately, I have not yet had access to actually watching the video coverage of it. I was able to get a brief report on the results of the races, and for the Super Twin event, which is the one that I generally follow. This was an unusual result because Yamaha actually swept the first place in all three classes over the weekend. So for the Super Twin event, J.D. Beach took first in his Yamaha, and Jerome Van der Kooi on a Indian had his best ever result in the Super Twin racing. He did got second place. Brian Bauman, the defending champion on a Indian, did place third. And Jared Meese, unfortunately, had to bow out of the race because he had a knee injury, I think, in some of the qualifying events or maybe the practices. I'm not sure which, but he was unable to finish or to race in the final event. So the season and the results for the season, obviously, are still up for grabs. It looks like it's going to be an interesting season this year, and we'll see if Bauman and Meese are able to continue to dominate, or if other riders and even other brands, manufacturers, are able to make more of an impact this year. So not much to say for Harley Davidson thus far, but we'll have to see about that. So those were the results for flat track. And moving on to MotoGP, the Spanish Grand Prix was held this weekend at the Circuit de, and however you pronounce this, Juarez, or Juarez. It was the Spanish circuit, and this is a circuit that has always traditionally tended to favor the Yamahas. A lot of corners, and not so much long straights. So the Yamahas tend to do well on this track, and that's appeared to be true in the qualifying. The Yamaha actually qualified first and second, with Quartararo qualifying first, and Morbidelli on the Petronas Yamaha finished qualifying in second. And Ducati made a strong showing in qualifying as well, with Jack Miller qualifying in third place and his teammate Pecco Bagnaia qualifying in fourth. Tako Nakagami on one of the non-factory Hondas managed to qualify in fifth place. A very good qualifying for him, and Johan Zarco rounded out the first two rows, qualifying in sixth. So an interesting front two rows to start off the race. Now, Miller had a great start and had jumped into the lead with Morbidelli, Pecco Bagnaia, and Quartararo pursuing him. However, Quartararo began moving up. He was, as he had done in the qualifying, he was riding a very good pace, and he eventually, by lap 5, was able to take the lead past Jack Miller, and proceeded to put distance between himself and Miller. It looked like he was pulling a Jorge Lorenzo, who is a rider that, once he gets into the lead, is able to be incredibly consistent and just stay in the lead and increase his distance and his decrease his lap times. And Quartararo was doing the same thing. He was going faster and faster and putting some time and distance between himself and Miller. However, Miller increased his own pace, even though on this track it's more difficult for the Ducatis to do that, but he managed to hang on and prevent Quartararo from losing him entirely. And so the race went, but by lap 16, something happened. Quartararo started slowing down. Unexpectedly, and for reasons that were not clear, his lap time started dropping precipitously. And he had about a second and a half lead over Miller, and he lost that in one lap. And Miller was able to pass him easily by the 17th lap. And by the end of the race, almost the entire field ended up passing him. And it turned out that Quartararo started having severe pain from a compartment syndrome, which is like carpal tunnel syndrome. He had this in his right arm, and he just could not, maintain. He almost stopped. And when you saw him after the race, he was in extreme pain. So Miller went on to win the race in grand style. He really ran a very good race, and he probably in so doing saved himself from getting increasing doubts and criticism from the Ducati team. Pecco Bagnaia ran a very good race as well. He held off a charging Morbidelli to take second place. And Morbidelli did a great job on the older Yamaha that he's riding, the Petronas Yamaha that he's riding, and did very well to take third. Nakagami on one of the non-factory Hondas had an excellent finish for fourth. And the inexorable Mir on the Suzuki took 5th. And, watch out for Mir because he runs very consistently, and he doesn't have to win to finish to stay in contention for the championship. We know that. Rossi did very poorly in qualifying for the race. He seems to be he's reportedly having trouble with traction in the rear end of the bike, even though it's, the same, it's a factory, it's one of the factory Yamahas. It's the same bike basically that Quartararo and Vinales are using, and they seem to be able to remain quite competitive. Vinales, I think, finished 7th in the race, and he started off, I think, in 9th. Or maybe he started off in 7th, dropped to 9th. And at any rate, Vinales ran a consistent race. Unlike other races where he didn't have a great start, he didn't drop back in the first half of the race. He managed to run very consistent laps and finished in the top 10. So, and as far as I don't know what's going to happen with Rossi, whether he'll finish the season racing like he is, but I do know that if he isn't able to be more competitive this season, this will be the last season in the MotoGP for Valentino. And Marc Marquez managed to finish in 9th place. He ran a very consistent race. He seemed stronger and able to maintain his pace. He wasn't that far off the pace of the leaders, and I expect that he will improve from here. So it may not be the next race, but I do expect Marquez to be competing for podiums in the near future. So very interesting, an unpredictable race, and I'm not placing any bets on who's going to be the champion for this season. So that's it from the paddock.
Awesome. Nicely done, as always. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Twitter at Throttle Show, Instagram Throttle Show, and Facebook Throttle Podcast. We, as always, want to give a big shout out to all of our Throttled crew members. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to the website, throttledpodcast.com, click on the Patreon logo, or go to patreon.com/throttled. You guys, as always, in the live stream have been great. A lot of people out riding in the Motorcycle Podcasters Challenge that has officially started as of the date of this airing. And so Zach and everybody on Team Throttle listeners doing a great job. So I'm sure that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. We'll try to keep you apprised of that moving forward. Let's see here. What else we want to talk about? Yeah, we do broadcast live on YouTube Sunday, 7:30, and pay attention to our social media accounts to get the link for that. About 15 minutes.
7:30 Central.
7:30 Central. Thank you.
5:30 Pacific.
Yeah, Larry's staying on top of me tonight. Thank you very much, my friend. And yeah, send us your feedback. Feedback at throttledpodcast.com. Love to get your email. And man, I think that's going to do it, man. Appreciate it. You did a great job on that paddock. I hate to hear about Valentino, but it's about time.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, man, you want to sign off?
Sure. It's been fun as always. Thanks to our chat as always, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. And in the meantime, ride as much as you can, and above all, ride your own ride.
All right, everybody, be safe out there, get out and ride, and we'll talk to you all next week. And everybody in the live stream, we're going to go ahead and shut it down. Thanks for everybody. You guys were great in the chat. Lloyd and Kevin with a little banter. See, Rodney just slipped in. And have a wonderful evening, good week, and we'll talk to you all later.